Buried in the memory hole of modern civilization lies the immoral, corrosive culture of the world's elite. Last week, Dominique Straus Kahn, the former head of the International Monetary Fund, candidate for the French Presidency, and Bilderberg attendee, closed another chapter on a saga rife with perversion. A French court acquitted Kahn of aggravated pimping, claiming that Kahn did not help operate an illegal prostitution network.
The Carlton affair is named after one of the hotels where businessmen and police officials allegedly organised sex parties that took place in Brussels, Paris and Washington.
Kahn said he was present at the orgies attended by lawyers, judges, police officials and journalists because he was overwhelmed with stress dealing with saving the world's economy as the head of the IMF. That stress really must have gotten to him when he sexually assaulted a maid in a Times Square hotel only hours before he was scheduled to meet with German Chancellor Angela Merkel. In the UK, Scotland Yard is finally launching an inquiry into the 30-plus year cover-up of child sex abuse rings perpetrated by judges, politicians, intelligence officers, and staff at the royal palaces. It would later be revealed that Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher's protege, Leon Britton, was at the center of the cover-up and was under investigation for raping a woman and sexually abusing boys up until his death this year.
He was back at the center of controversy last year amidst questions over his handling of allegations of sexual abuse when he was Home Secretary 30 years ago.
A sad day for the survivors of child sex abuse because they would have wanted to hear from Sir Leon Britton at this inquiry in terms of what he knew about the allegations that were made during the 1980s.
In 2014, former Obama staffer Donnie Ray Williams pleaded guilty to raping 2 women. He drugged the first one with Ambien and raped the second one after she was so intoxicated she couldn't give proper consent. In 2013, Williams suffered an acid attack to his face and body by an unknown man. He used this attack as an excuse to sway the judge to give him 5 years probation rather than any prison time. And this only scrapes the surface of the many allegations weighing on the overall perception of the ruling elite.
The report is a devastating critique of the Vatican's performance in dealing with child sex abuse. It says it's still not willing to recognise the scale of the problem or take responsibility for it. The Church is still moving guilty abusers from parish to avoid prosecution. That must stop.
14 French soldiers who were working as UN peacekeepers in the Central African Republic have been accused of sexually abusing refugee children and feeding them only in exchange for sex.
I didn't know that the thing was Bohemian Grove back then, nor did the kid when he was writing it. All he knew was he was taken to this place. Now, this is Benassi, a kid named Paul Benassi writing this, and this is directly word for word from his diary. I went in January of '84 on every trip. I was paid by men King knew for sex. In the summer of '84, sometime I went to Dallas, Texas, and had sex with several men King knew in a hotel. I flew on YNR Airlines, by the way, that's a private airline or just private charter deal, and CAM Airlines, another private charter deal. King flew me out on a private plane from Epley Airfield in Omaha to Denver, where we picked up Nicholas, a boy who was about 12 or 13. Then we flew to Vegas. Nicholas and I were driven to an area that had big trees. It took about an hour to get there. There was a cage with a boy in it who was not wearing anything. Nicholas and I were given these Tarzan things to put around us and stuff like that. They told me to, I won't use the word, blank the boy and stuff. In other words, have sex with him. At first I said no, and they held a gun to my genitals, I'll use the word, and said do it or else lose them. I didn't know that the thing was Bohemian Grove back then, nor did the kid when he was writing it. All he knew was he was taken to this place. Blank him and stuff and beat on him. I didn't try to hurt him. We were told to put our blanks in his mouth and stuff and sit on the boy's blank and stuff, and they filmed it. We did this stuff to the boy for about 30 minutes or an hour when a man came in and kicked us and stuff in the genitals and picked us up and threw us. He grabbed the boy and started blanking him and stuff, and the men tossed me and him and stuff and put the boy right next to me and grabbed the gun and blew the boy's head off. The boy's blood was all over me, and I started yelling and crying. The men grabbed Nicholas and I and forced us to lie down. They put the boy on top of Nicholas, who was crying, and they were putting Nicholas' hands on the boy's blank. They put the boy on top of me and did the same thing. They then forced me to blank the dead boy. Everything, including when the men put the boy in a trunk, was filmed.
This loathsome lack of moral latitude fomented by the ruling elite seeps to the surface like a toxic chemical, attempting to gather the hearts and minds of Americans to be integrated into the elite's modus operandi of the common culture. But the good people of America are many, regardless of the media's grip on politics, music, and entertainment. In a speech to the military in 1798, John Adams warned his fellow countrymen, saying, "We have no government armed with power capable of contending with human passions unbridled by morality and religion. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." John Bound for Infowars.com.